Welcome to the Deep Dive Learner. So I want you to picture a time-lapse camera, right?
Okay.
But not one pointed at a sunset or, a blooming flower or something. This camera is hooked up to an incubator in a highly sterile fertility lab.
Right.
And it's filming this microscopic cluster of human cells dividing every few minutes. And today, that specific footage is going to completely flip, everything we thought we knew about the father's role in making a baby.
It really does. Because, for decades, the entire narrative around fertility, and especially IVF, has placed the burden almost squarely on the shoulders of the female patient.
Oh, absolutely.
We look at her age, her ovarian reserve, the intricacies of her hormone panel. She undergoes weeks of these intensive injections.
Yeah, and the invasive retrieval surgery. It's a lot.
Exactly. And the male partner's role, historically, it was basically just supply a sample in a cup down the hall and wait in the waiting room.
Which feels wild, honestly.
Right.
When you consider it takes two distinct sets of biology to actually make this happen. But today, learner, we have a stack of incredibly fascinating sources on the table that, well, they dismantle that old imbalance completely.
They really do.
We are looking at this groundbreaking 2025 research paper published in Reproductive Biomedicine Online.
It's a fantastic paper.
And alongside it, we have these specific clinical protocols and rigorous Western medical studies evaluating traditional Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack how modern technology has finally proven that a father's sperm health drastically dictates late-stage embryo development.
Which is a huge paradigm shift.
It really is. And then we're going to explore how surprisingly low-tech, ancient interventions are being proven by Western science to fix those exact sperm issues.
And to really appreciate the magnitude of this 2025 review, we have to look at how fertility clinics have operated for, the last 40 years.
All right, set the stage for us.
Well, when it came to the male side, the standard of care was essentially just taking attendance.
Taking attendance?
Yeah, basically. A technician looked under a microscope and did a basic head count. Maybe they checked to see if a few of them were moving around.
Oh, wow. So just a very surface-level check.
Exactly. There was very little effort put into actually improving the quality of the sperm beforehand. The goal was just finding enough biological material to work with.
But this new review of 9 high-quality studies, which covers over 26,000 embryos, changes that entire philosophy.
It changes everything.
So let's talk about how they tracked those 26,000 embryos. Because the technology here, it's the key to why we were flying blind for so long.
It is. We're talking about continuous time-lapse monitoring inside the incubator.
Right. Because before this, my understanding is that embryologists had to physically take the petri dish out of the warm, safe incubator, right?
Yeah, they had to pull it out, put it under a microscope, quickly look at it, and then rush to put it back.
Which sounds incredibly stressful for a developing embryo.
Oh, it is. It exposes them to changes in temperature, light, even pH levels.
Yeah, geez.
And because you can only risk taking them out, maybe once a day, embryologists only ever got a snapshot.
Right, like a single photograph instead of a movie.
Exactly. A lot happens between Tuesday morning and Wednesday morning that they simply never saw. But with continuous time-lapse, cameras built directly into the incubators.
The embryos are left completely undisturbed.
That's what researchers can now track the exact hour and minute an embryo divides from 2 cells to 4, from 4 to 8, and so on. They created a literal movie of human development.
And watching that tape back, learner provided the ultimate aha moment for these researchers because they saw a very distinct division of labor that we never fully appreciated before.
We really didn't.
During the first 3 to 4 days, when the embryo is just a few cells, the mother's egg is entirely running the show.
Yes.
The quality of the sperm barely registers during this initial phase.
Which makes sense biologically. The female egg is an absolute powerhouse of a cell.
It's huge, right?
It's massive compared to a sperm. And it is packed with all the initial cellular energy. The mitochondria, the proteins, the biological machinery needed to kickstart those first few cell divisions.
So the embryo is essentially coasting entirely on the mom's stored resources.
Right. The sperm acts merely as a key to unlock the process, but its genetic payload isn't truly activated yet.
It makes me think of a relay race.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, like the egg is the starting runner. It comes out of the blocks, carrying the baton through those early divisions for the first 3 to 4 days.
Hmm.
But then, right when the embryo needs to hit this critical milestone, becoming a complex, multi-layered structure called a blastocyst, which is actually ready to implant in the uterine wall.
Right, that crucial day 5 or day 6 stage.
Yeah, right then, the sperm has to take the baton for the anchor leg.
And the time-lapse cameras proved exactly what happens when you have a weak anchor runner in that relay.
Tell me.
Well, around day 3 or 4,
Mm-hmm.
what we call paternal genome activation occurs. The embryo suddenly has to start reading the father's genetic instruction manual to figure out how to keep growing.
So the dad's DNA finally steps up to the plate.
Exactly. And if the dad's sperm had a low count or poor swimming ability, what we call motility, the time-lapse footage shows the embryo literally slowing down.
Wow. Literally slowing down on camera.
The biological ticking clock is physically delayed.
Mm.
They struggle to reach the blastocyst stage on time, or they just stall out entirely.
So wait, a sperm could look perfectly fine on day 1, successfully fertilize the egg, and then silently crash the whole operation on day 4.
That is exactly the data shows.
That is wild. Okay, so what exactly makes a good anchor runner then? If we know when the sperm takes over, what are the specific qualities in the sperm that dictate success or failure in that late stage?
The 2025 paper highlights a few absolute non-negotiables. First is motility, which is the sheer swimming vigor of the sperm.
Okay, so how well they move.
Right. Alongside overall concentration. Higher motility and concentration at the time of fertilization strongly correlate with faster, properly paced embryo development days later.
And pacing is everything here.
It is. An embryo that hits its developmental milestones on a precise schedule has a dramatically higher chance of successful implantation in the womb.
Which ultimately leads to higher live birth rates.
Exactly.
The paper also points out that the age of the father plays a role here, right? Which kind of counters that old myth that men can just effortlessly father children into their 70s without any biological consequences.
Yes, that is a huge myth. Older dad's sperm physically slows the embryo development down.
So age degrades the cellular machinery.
It undeniably does.
Right.
But the overarching culprit they identified across these studies, the real villain behind that sluggish day 4 growth, is something called sperm DNA fragmentation.
Okay, let's break that down for the learner because it sounds severe.
It is a major issue.
We're talking about physical breaks or damage in the actual genetic material carried inside the head of the sperm, right?
Yes. Think of the DNA inside the sperm as a highly compressed, tightly coiled instruction manual.
Okay, an instruction manual.
DNA fragmentation means pages are torn out or words are smudged.
Oh, that's a great way to picture it.
Right, so the sperm might still have a tail, it might be able to swim to the egg, but once it gets inside, the embryo eventually tries to read that manual to build a blastocyst.
And when it hits the torn pages...
Development stalls.
Hmm.
The time-lapse cameras show a direct link between highly fragmented sperm DNA and delayed, poor-quality, late-stage embryos.
Okay, I have to play the skeptic for a second and push back on standard clinic protocols here.
Go for it.
If we know this, if embryologists can physically watch these embryos slow down on camera because of poor sperm quality, why is the standard procedure just finding one okay sperm?
We talking about ICSI?
Yeah, ICSI, intracytoplasmic sperm injection, where a technician literally isolates a single sperm and injects it straight into the egg with a microscopic needle. Why are clinics just rummaging around the sample looking for one survivor instead of, I don't know, stepping back and actually making the whole batch better?
And that tension you're pointing out is the central thesis of the 2025 paper.
Really?
Yeah. ICSI was a miraculous invention in the 1990s because it allowed men with severe male factor infertility to become biological fathers.
Which is amazing, obviously.
Truly. But the philosophy became, well, we only need one sperm to make an embryo, so we will just use technology to force it into the egg.
Ah, I see.
Over the decades, clinics started over-relying on ICSI to bypass poor sperm health altogether.
Rather than addressing why the sperm count was terrible in the first place.
Precisely. This paper is a direct call to action for fertility clinics to stop treating ICSI as a magical bypass.
Because it doesn't fix the torn instruction manual.
Exactly. You can force fertilization with a subpar sperm using a needle, but you cannot force a healthy blastocyst on day 5.
Wow.
That hidden DNA fragmentation is still going to haunt you when the paternal genome turns on.
That makes total sense.
So the scientific consensus is finally shifting. We have to proactively improve the quality of the sperm well before the IVF cycle even begins. Better sperm equals healthier, faster-growing embryos.
Because if the baton handoff on day 4 is going to fail, it really doesn't matter how good your starting runner was.
Or how fancy the needle was that started the race.
Exactly. Which brings us to a massive pivot in our source material.
Yes, the intervention side.
Right. If we accept that we can't just bypass bad sperm, if we actually have to upgrade the biological machinery creating it, how do we do that? I mean, you can't exactly put sperm on a treadmill.
No, you definitely cannot.
Ironically, the most cutting-edge embryology is pointing us toward one of the oldest medical interventions on the planet, traditional Chinese medicine.
Specifically, acupuncture and herbal therapy.
Yeah. It is a remarkable intersection, isn't it?
It really is. We are seeing modern, microscopic cellular problems being solved by macroscopic, ancient practices.
So how does this work? Walk us through the protocol.
Well, the standard TCM protocol for male fertility outlined in the clinical data typically spans 8 to 12 weeks.
8 to 12 weeks. Why that specific time frame?
Because the life cycle of a sperm from a raw germ cell to a fully mature swimmer takes about 70 to 90 days.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah. So this protocol aligns perfectly with a full manufacturing cycle. It involves thin, painless acupuncture needles placed on specific points on the lower back, abdomen, legs, and ankles.
Usually twice a week, right?
Usually twice a week, yes.
Yeah.
Paired with daily custom herbal formulas.
Okay, learner, if you are sitting there wondering how a needle in your ankle is supposed to help an embryo grow in a lab, we really need to talk about the biological mechanisms.
Yeah, because this isn't mystical energy. It's measurable physiology.
Exactly. The sources explain that these TCM treatments do a few highly specific things. First, they drastically increase blood flow to the testicles.
Right.
But how does a needle in the lower extremity actually do that?
It does it by stimulating specific peripheral nerves. When an acupuncturist places a needle in the leg or ankle, it sends a signal up the spinal cord to the brain, which triggers a systemic nervous system response.
Meaning what, exactly?
It shifts the body out of its sympathetic fight-or-flight mode and into a parasympathetic rest and digest state.
Ah, okay.
And when your nervous system relaxes, your blood vessels naturally dilate. This allows a huge surge of nutrient-rich, highly oxygenated blood to reach the pelvic floor and the reproductive organs.
And that fresh blood flow is crucial because it tackles the second major mechanism, lowering oxidative stress and inflammation.
Which is huge.
Let's lean back into the manufacturing plant analogy here, because I picture the male reproductive system as an assembly line.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
And oxidative stress is essentially toxic exhaust and rust building up on the factory floor.
Right.
It damages the cellular structure of the sperm, breaking the tails and fragmenting the DNA.
So if oxidative stress is the toxic exhaust, the fresh blood flow triggered by acupuncture acts as a heavy-duty ventilation system.
Oh, I see.
It brings in natural antioxidants to sweep out the free radicals and cool down the inflammation on that factory floor.
And beyond the blood flow, the sources show TCM gently balances crucial hormones, too.
Yes, specifically things like FSH.
Right, follicle-stimulating hormone, which is the signal the brain sends to the testes to actually manufacture the sperm.
Exactly. It also balances LH, or luteinizing hormone, which triggers testosterone production.
And finally, the treatment lowers overall systemic stress hormones like cortisol.
Which are just notorious for shutting down reproductive functions entirely.
Right. Your body isn't going to prioritize making a baby if it thinks you're constantly running from a bear.
Exactly. So by doing all of this, increasing blood flow, sweeping out oxidative stress, and optimizing the hormonal signals, TCM directly solves the exact roadblocks the 2025 time-lapse cameras identified.
You are fundamentally upgrading the raw materials in the assembly line.
Yes. And the end results measured after this 8 to 12-week protocol are undeniably robust.
We're talking higher overall count, greater semen volume, better forward swimming motility,
Improved structural shape or morphology. And, most importantly, a significant reduction in that dreaded DNA fragmentation.
which is exactly what the Inca runner needs. And it is vital to point out for the learner that doing this is perfectly safe alongside regular fertility care.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't have to choose between your Western reproductive endocrinologist and a TCM practitioner.
Not at all. You just need to ensure you are seeing a licensed, board-certified acupuncturist who specializes in fertility. And, keep your medical doctor in the loop.
Right, they absolutely work best synergistically.
Western medicine provides the high-tech monitoring and the precise retrieval and fertilization techniques.
While Eastern medicine provides the physiological optimization of the raw materials before the procedure even starts.
Exactly.
Okay, I have to jump in here, though.
Sure.
Because whenever I hear the word acupuncture, the skeptical part of my brain instantly screams, placebo effect.
Sure, it's a common reaction.
Right. Because let's say a guy is totally stressed out about IVF. He goes to a clinic twice a week, lies in a quiet, dimly lit room for an hour, maybe listens to some ambient music.
That sounds relaxing.
Isn't it entirely possible that taking forced naps simply lowered his stress and that's why his sperm parameters improved? Like, is it really the needles?
It is the most common and valid critique of acupuncture research, which is exactly why the source material includes hard, Western clinical data designed specifically to dismantle the placebo argument.
Okay, let's get into the clinical receipts then.
Let's do.
We have a study from Pei and colleagues from 2005.
Yes.
This was conducted by researchers in Germany and Italy and published in Fertility and Sterility, which is a massive, highly respected American medical journal.
It's a top-tier journal.
They took men with unexplained infertility, ran them through a targeted acupuncture protocol twice a week for 5 weeks, and physically measured the sperm afterward.
And the structural improvements are striking.
What did they find?
The researchers saw significant enhancements in both motility and morphology.
So morphology refers to the physical architecture of the sperm cell.
Exactly. They noted far fewer structural defects in the head and the tailpiece.
Wow.
And you cannot simply placebo your way into changing the microscopic cellular architecture of millions of sperm cells.
That's a great point.
That requires a fundamental shift in the biological manufacturing process.
But the absolute nail in the coffin for the placebo argument is the Dieterle study from 2009.
Yes, also conducted by Western researchers in Germany.
Tell us about that one.
Dieterle ran a randomized placebo-controlled trial, which is the gold standard of scientific research.
Right.
They took a group of men suffering from very low sperm count and poor motility and divided them entirely at random.
Okay.
One group received real, targeted acupuncture along the established therapeutic nerve pathways. The second group received sham, or placebo, acupuncture.
Okay, wait, meaning what? The acupuncturist placed real needles into the men in the second group, but deliberately put them in random spots on the body.
Exactly. Random spots that are not tied to the nervous system pathways linked to reproduction.
Okay, so both groups of men experienced the exact same psychological intervention.
Right. They both laid on a table in a dark room. They both felt needles go into their skin. They both rested for the exact same amount of time.
So if this was just about taking a relaxing nap, both groups would show the exact same improvements.
But they didn't.
Really?
Only the group receiving the real targeted acupuncture saw a clear, measurable increase in the percentage of highly motile swimming sperm.
And the sham group?
The sham group saw no significant change.
Wow.
So the physical placement of the needles triggered a measurable physiological change, completely independent of the patient's state of mind.
That is incredible. And our sources don't just rely on isolated studies in Germany either.
No, we are looking at massive syntheses of global data.
Right, like a researcher named Peld out of Yosen University in Los Angeles published a synthesis in 2011, and that aggregated 19 different studies.
19 studies.
All consistently showing that acupuncture and Chinese herbal formulas together significantly improved count, concentration, motility, and morphology in men with subfertility.
With zero adverse side effects.
Which is huge. And then there's another synthesis by Pryor in that same year, also out of Yosan University.
And that one focused heavily on the DNA fragmentation piece.
Right, the torn instruction manual.
Exactly.
Okay.
By analyzing multiple trials, they proved that TCM positively altered hormone balance and boosted internal antioxidant levels.
So creating a systemic environment that protects the sperm DNA from fracturing in the first place.
Exactly. Whether a couple is trying to conceive naturally or preparing for an ICSI cycle, reducing that DNA fragmentation is paramount to getting a healthy blastocyst.
So bringing all these threads together, the Western clinical data aligns flawlessly with the stark warnings of the 2025 embryology paper.
It's a perfect match.
The time-lapse cameras tell us that if the anchor runner is weak, the embryo stalls on day 4.
And the Western-backed TCM data tells us we have the tools to actually train that anchor runner.
Right. When you upgrade the factory, when you boost the motility, fix the morphology, and protect the DNA integrity, the embryo development speeds up,
It hits its milestones.
and the chances of taking a baby home skyrocket.
This should be profoundly empowering for the patient.
I completely agree.
It shifts fertility from a passive waiting game into an active preparatory phase.
And the sources are careful to remind us that holistic lifestyle changes work in tandem with TCM too.
Oh, they're essential.
Yeah.
Quitting smoking, strictly limiting alcohol, eating a diet rich in antioxidants, engaging in moderate exercise, and managing weight.
Right. These aren't just empty wellness buzzwords.
No, they are direct mechanical ways to reduce that oxidative stress on the factory floor alongside the acupuncture.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner?
It means a lot.
If you or someone you love is navigating the grueling maze of fertility treatments, it means you have actionable, proven tools at your disposal that have honestly been overlooked for decades.
If you're preparing for IVF, you should not accept the narrative that only the female body needs preparation.
Right. The 2025 paper says better sperm is an absolute biological necessity for later-stage embryos.
Patients need to advocate for themselves and proactively ask their IVF clinics about integrating this preparation into their protocol.
Thankfully, many of the top-tier fertility centers now actively recommend a 3-month male prep phase.
They do. And for those looking for a concrete starting point or seeking more information on how Eastern and Western medicine seamlessly integrate in practice, the sources highlight the Berkeley Center in New York City.
That's Berkeley, right?
Yes, you can find them at berkeleycenter.com. They specialize entirely in bridging this exact gap between ancient optimization and modern reproductive technology.
It is incredibly refreshing to do a deep dive that doesn't just, outline a depressing modern health problem, but actually hands over a heavily researched, clinically validated solution.
It really is. The realization that we don't have to just make do with whatever subpar sperm is in the sample cup,
Right.
but that we can literally heal the source of the issue is a massive leap forward.
It fundamentally rewrites the emotional landscape of fertility, too.
It makes human reproduction a true biological team effort, just as it is an emotional partnership.
The burden is finally shared.
Exactly.
Which leaves me with one final thought I want to pose to you, learner, as you go about your day. We started this whole conversation by visualizing those time-lapse cameras in the lab,
Right.
watching the literal ticking clock of human creation unfold cell by cell.
Yeah.
If something as seemingly subtle as a father's cellular oxidative stress can literally slow down the physical ticking clock of an embryo's growth inside a controlled incubator days after fertilization,
Makes you wonder.
what else about our modern, high-stress, inflammatory lifestyles is silently rewriting the very earliest blueprints of human development?
It is a heavy, fascinating question.
It really is something to carry with you. Keep digging, keep questioning, and we will see you on the next deep dive.